try and look for the inside, but it was closed off. There was absolutely no way through there.
He's a determined driver. He'll be trying everything he possibly can.
This is where the excitement's at. This has been really intense.
This is a really spicy battle.
It's still absolutely neck and neck. Nice! Oh, swapping paint between the two of them.
Hello everyone and welcome to race meeting number 2 of this, the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. This time around we head to Norfolk, we head to Snetterton for rounds 3 and 4. My name is Conor Medic and I'm joined by Paul Smith as ever as we get ourselves set for another evening of racing here on a Tuesday night. How are you doing, Paul? It's Snetterton coming up and yet another couple of rounds into the books, hopefully.
Well, I mean, after the excitement, the opening rounds of the championship at Donington Park, with the mixed weather as well that we had, today it's a bit sunnier sunnier skies, should I say, for the drivers out there. So at least for race number 1 of the evening, we should be in for some really good close action once again.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an unforgettable start last time with the rain-affected shenanigans going on at Donington Park. But we do head to Snetterton for this second race meeting. Of course, race 3 and 4 are going to happen today. The championships already are starting to be set. Of course, we've only had one race meeting worth of races, so whilst we can't read too much into things once we get to those standings. But the other side of the coin, Paul, is that it is such a short season. Silverstone will essentially be our halfway point, and that's only in a week's time.
Yeah, and the one everybody's looking forward to, of course, is Upton Park International, the greatest circuit in all of the UK, if not the world. Yes, I am biased. But it is certainly a short, sharp season for these drivers with a lot on stake. There's some really good prizes for the champions to win. A day down at the Porsche Experience Centre. Right on cue, Connery. We get to see what the format is for here.
Yeah, absolutely. Drivers are currently undergoing their lone qualifying, and they'll get themselves 2 flying laps. That is also lone qualifying closed, so that means there's no other cars on circuit apart from them. They're all in their own little universes out there doing their laps. Then we'll head in towards race number 1, 30 minutes. Race number 2, 30 minutes. There's no reverse grid or anything. So race 2 order will be based on the results from race number 1. It is the fixed setup as well. So every car out there, you can see amongst the 2 classes set up in an identical way. Also, we'll have standing starts, which is always an interesting predicament when you have a multi-class grid. The 2 classes, the Porsche GT3 Up, the 992 variant for the pros, and then for the AM, we've got our Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport MRs. 2 absolutely fantastic machines to go racing with here. The prizes, as Paul has already mentioned, the top 3 drivers from each class will win a half-day driving experience at the Porsche Experience Centre Silverstone. The pro drivers will compete, or rather participate, in the 911s, and the AM drivers will participate in the Caymans as well. So as close as you can with the cars that they race here on the sim, they'll get to experience them in the real world as well. But here's a recap of the points order after the first race meeting. It is Matt Caruana that leads the pro order with 51 points over Jack Jeffries, but that was a close run thing in the races that we had last time out. Then we got James Armstrong, George Tyler, and Luke Andrews as a top 5 in pro. And then you look across in towards AM, where Aidan Carter currently leads with 53 points over Alistair Pollock and Adam Greaveson as the top 3 there. Mike Pierce and Carl Chase will round out the top 5 in the AM GT4 category. So that's a little bit of a look at how the championships are shaping up right at this moment, Paul. Of course, like I said, we can't read too much into it. We've only got one event's worth of races in the bag, but I think these events here at Snetterton will really be telling as to who is going to be our championship contenders in the next couple of races.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Snetterton, it's an old school track. That's a big moment there on corner exit of Williams. That's not how to take that. And of course, that invalidates William Hope's lap time there. And that was a second lap for William, I do believe, looking there. So, yeah, it was not a good start to qualifying into the day. Will Eatwell's doing well, but Caruana provisionally on pole position in pro. But yeah, it's a bit of an old school track, is Snetterton. They did make some changes about 10, 12 years ago, something like that now. And they created the infield section that the drivers, Will Eatwell's just going through right now. Allegedly produces some extra overtaking opportunities. Personally, I think it ruined the flow of the track, if you ask me, but there you go. It does give spectators a lot more action to see, though, to be fair, so it's good for spectating down at that section, but it does mean it's quite a long lap here at this track. 4.78 kilometers for this 13-turn track, as you say, in Norfolk.
Yeah, and well, it's Luke Andrews who's the only driver in the 149s at the moment. So most pro drivers sort of in the 1 minute 50 mark, and then you've got your AM drivers in the Cayman. They're doing 154s and 155s towards the second half of the field there. So that's an interesting one, but it does look like Matt Caruana has quite a bit of company in terms of the times at the very front of the order. And Will Eatwell decides, well, I want to get involved in this as well. He goes provisional pole position in the pro order. But not, well, usurped by Caruana.
Not for long at all. And here's the thing, with this being a fixed setup as well, your second lap is going to be your quicker lap because you've got your tyres up to temperature and pressures that you want to run to, but you've burnt off just a little bit of fuel there. Just and you're talking hundredths of second difference, but it all helps as Mike Pierce has to bail on his qualifying lap. So yeah, it's crucial to get right, and with it being an old school track, there's no asphalt runoff areas here. It's all grass to the side of the track, and put a wheel onto the dirt, you're getting yourself an invalidated lap time.
You absolutely are. Some drivers just bringing themselves to a stop there. Cooper deciding to take the tow back to pit lane there. Here's Denise Pope, who is currently not on the lap. She's used all of the 2 flying laps that are available to these drivers. So just maybe getting a little bit of last-minute practice in and just waiting for that session clock to hit 0. And then we get ourselves onto our grid for race number 1. But looks like at the moment the grid is pretty much set. I'm not seeing anyone out there that's currently on laps in terms of they haven't used their full allotment of laps here. So the grid is pretty much set. Matt Caruana pole position in pro with Will Eatwell and Luke Andrews up there as well. It's very interesting to see what Andrews is able to do from a second row start. That's going to be a fantastic effort from him. But of course down in AM, it seems to be business as usual with Aidan Carter being up there on pole. However, he only has pole by 100th of a second.
Yeah, really close for them. There's your provisional pole sitter won't be usurped. I can tell you, Carl Chase is just finishing off a second lap time. Failed to set a lap time in the first lap, goes across the line and does set a time in AM. So, yeah, there was Matt Caruana, your pro pole position sitter. Half a second, though, around here. That is actually quite a big margin to be in so much of a lead in pole position. But as you say, the AM category, we saw it last time, how incredibly close it was, first between Carter and Pierce, but then also Carter and Pollock as well. So we've seen how close it can be out there in AM. I mean, intriguing race, will this one. I think we may end up having to sort of pick and choose who we follow.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, there were points last time out where we were really struggling to keep track of everything because the weather was causing a bit of chaos up and down the grid. But of course, with the dry conditions that we have here right now, there's no risk of rain over the course of this first race here, at least. So it's going to be a pretty straightforward affair, you would have thought. But I know the danger in saying that sometimes, Paul, because you can never quite predict these sorts of races. But as the qualifying does draw itself to a close in terms of its session length, we can get ourselves the starting grid for the first race of today. So it's Matt Caruana taking pole position in pro with Will Eatwell on the front row as well. We've got Luke Andrews and Dave Martin for third and fourth, and then we've got James Armstrong and Christian Saruta making up the third row. 7th and 8th go to Ben Cooper and George Tyler, and then Jack Jeffries will start in 9th. Edward Hope in P10 with Ben Smith in 11th. Matthew Crisp will start in 12th. Further back in pro, William Hope will start in P13. Cody Cosford in 14th with Jenny Elliott in there with P15. And then we've got Glenn Humberston and Adam Locke running out the 17-car pro grid. In AM, it looks like this. Aidan Carter taking pole position by just that single hundredth of a second over Adam Grieveson. Then Chris Chard in third with Mike Pierce in fourth. Alistair Pollock will start fifth with Carl Chase in sixth. Roy Weller will start in P7 with Jack Mace P8. Then you've got Nick Scott Dixon there in P9 with P10 going to Denise Pope. Andrew Richardson in P11 with Wayne Basson in 12th. So that's the top to the bottom of your grid. Drivers already getting themselves all sorted out and ready to go here at Snetterton for the second race meeting of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain. The command is about to happen. Race number 3 of the championship about to get itself underway here in Norfolk. The green flag shows we are off, and it's a fantastic start from pole. It's a fantastic start from Luke Andrews, who leapfrogs Will Eatwell in towards P2 into turn 1. A little bit of a fight going on behind Jack Jeffries and Dave Martin, and then you've got the AM starters as well. And I can say that Adam Grieveson has not gotten away well. He's getting swallowed up in the pack a little bit here. Elliott behind him. Pollock also looking aggressive.
Yeah, I think there was an instant in turn 1. I think we'll probably look at that after a lap or so here. But yeah, the GT4's just getting a little bit caught up with the pros having their little instance. But it was a lightning start from Luke Andrews. It's so difficult to get these cars off of the line because you can get a bit of clutch slip if you've not absolutely got it spot on and get bogged down at the start. So yeah, really good stuff there as Ben Cooper making moves further down your order. Christian Zaruta is in and around with him, and that's William Hope as well, trying to fight him. So battling in pro, battling in AM as well. Aidan Carter, though, fortunately for him, has got a pro car between him and the rest of the pack.
Yeah, he absolutely does. As a battle between Carl Chase and Andrew Richardson happening on circuit as well. A couple of swaps around, a couple of big battles. Matthew Crisp and Will Hope is one of the ones that we're watching as well. They're absolutely neck and neck, and actually they're going to bottle, well, sort of roadblock some of the cars behind. That's Ben Smith and Edward Hope trying to work their way through, but there was just no option for them. They had to lift all the way out of it to let those guys ahead go wheel to wheel.
And here's the thing, the run out of Murray's is the most important corner, along with Williams, to get absolutely right, because it launches you all the way down the centre straight here in towards Riches, and then towards the hairpin, the Wilson hairpin. And well, not too bad out there for a start. Jack Mason, Glenn Humberston have both got mechanical meatball warning flags, so they're on pit road as Jack Jeffries trying to make moves in recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't get, well, I mean, it's tempting to continue to press on and improve position up into P4 for Jack Jeffries here at the moment. So Will Eatwell, Andrews and Caruana not too far down the road. They haven't really been able to break away, although there is a gap starting to develop between Caruana and Andrews. So Caruana has been, well, very, very quick so far this season. And there was the incident coming through turn number 1, Humberston down the inside. And you can see that this is what has affected the AM category coming up on them.
Yeah, he needed to back out that a little bit earlier, I think. That was a bit ambitious, and whack! Straight into that front corner goes one of your AMs, and a totally innocent party in that as well. But yeah, I think it was just that little bit ambitious. He didn't have an overlap. Speaking of ambitious, bang! And through he goes, but I don't think that'll be well appreciated by James Armstrong.
Yeah, Saruta with the overly optimistic move there up over the curb and forcing his competitor out into the grass. And of course, it was quite a hefty barge and a hefty hit as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's damage to one, if not both of those cars. As we're riding on board here with James Armstrong, and looks just slight shakes of the head there, looking disappointed. I don't think his car is too healthy here at the moment either.
I don't think he'll be upset about what happened between him and Zaruta, but then I think he'll be a little bit upset with the others just bashing him out of the way, going through bomb hole in towards Coram. So yeah, I think that's where he'll be doubly annoyed with all of that, as we look at Johnny Elia, who's trying to make a recovery drive behind Adam Locke right now on track. But yeah, it was how shall we say, robust.
Yes.
From Christian Zaruta, hitting that inside curb through the Nelson corner. It always ends in tears, does that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this will be a fantastic view of it as director pulls out the aerial shot. There's Saruta just coming in, tries to find the gap on the inside, and Armstrong kind of gave him the space, to be fair. It's just that Saruta lost it over the curb and had no control of the contact.
I was just going to say, it was what followed up as well that wasn't very nice, the way that he just got shoved out the way. But yeah, I mean, Zaruta came from a long way back. He came from an absolute mile back there. And I don't think the move was on. Ben Cooper deciding to help out matters.
Yeah, so Cooper around, just coming up to rejoin the circuit now. I didn't quite see what happened there. I don't think it was contact between with the other car behind, which I believe was Saruta. But yeah, that's a bit of a weird one. It's a little bit of a weird instance to have going through there. Let's have a look at the replay. Ooh, just car broke away.
He clipped the curb on the inside through Brundle, and it's a very difficult corner, is that section, because you're turning into if you're turning into that corner, you're also having to brake as well, and it unsettles the car, and clipping that curb whilst you're braking, car just brakes away. Oh my goodness, how was Johnny Elia going off to see the scary tree?
Well, a couple of cars deciding to do a bit of lawn mowing in the last couple of moments. Yeah, that's a bit of a weird one. Is it just a solo car incident, or is there a little bit more in it? We're on board with Elia as he looks to try and close in that car down, and just sort of gets his braking point wrong, doesn't he? Because he sort of thought about the move down the inside and decided to back out of the move, and by the time he thought about that whole process, the breaking point's already behind him. So he's just had to completely bail out of that.
I mean, to be fair to him, at least he didn't absolutely wipe out the car in front as well. So that's one bonus. That's a positive to take from that. But yeah, Johnny just getting that braking all wrong, had to take avoiding action, and says hello to the scary tree. Third and second place, they're just looking off into the distance. I think we might need to get Luke Andrews a pair of binoculars to try and find Matt Caruana. He's way ahead. That was a
he's around.
goal.
Luke Andrews around the nose of Will Eatwell. There he is. He gets back going, but look at how many cars are streaming through. And actually, he might just decide to call it a day there and just back out of it. Oh my word, we were just getting ourselves potentially hyped up for a battle for P2, but it is all in tatters now. It was just a moment coming out of Murray's that I think did the curb strike again? I believe so.
Let's have a look at it. It's hitting that curb, it unsettles the car, nothing that it could do about it, and innocent party and all of that is the driver in third place, who Will Eatwell ends up dropping a place through all of that. But Jack Jeffries and Dave Martin must have been just driving past going, thanks boys, keep it up.
Yeah, easiest positions they'll get all day long, that's for sure. It does result in a 4.6 second lead for Matt Caruana in Pro at the moment, so really stamping his authority on this race. It's been a very, very competent drive so far for Caruana. Of course, a little bit later on in this race, he'll come up on lap traffic potentially, which is a different kettle of fish, shall we say. The lapping procedure can be quite difficult, but he has a lot of experience on his shoulders, of course, with his 7,500 iRating and so many things that he's done in iRacing in the pro scene over the years. So I have utmost confidence in him, but you never know.
What it does do, it just gives him a little bit of breathing space, so that when he does catch up to lap traffic, he's not impatient and trying to potentially get himself involved in an incident that isn't his own. And that really does help you. Whereas if you're in a group like this with Christian Zaruta, Matthew Crisp, Will Hope, Ben Smith and Edward Hope, if you're in a queue of cars like this and you come up to traffic, it is all about get through as efficiently, as quickly as possible, so that then you can then try and gap out the rest of them that you're fighting with.
Yeah, you got to treat it like a multi-class endurance race, right? I mean, I know we're only racing for half an hour, but we still have the same class versus class related problems as those endurance folks do as well. So it is one thing that you do have to be very much aware of in this series. The lap time delta between the two classes on the order of about 4 to 5 seconds here at the moment. So at some parts of the circuit, it can be quite a big difference between these two cars, but they're not as overmatched as, say, a prototype versus a GT3.
I found out what happened to Luke Andrews, by the way. He actually had his connection drop.
Oh.
That's why he ended up disappearing off. So not only was it drama with the curb and the car getting spun around, it was also drama with his internet connection as well.
Yeah, it's unfortunately one of those things that happen. We are racing online, of course. You know, sim racing's done online. Again, it's an unfortunate reality, but if you do want to draw a comparison to the real world, they have random mechanical failures all the time. So it's, I guess it's really our equivalent, I suppose.
Yeah, it just seems to be that our equivalent seems to be a bit more random than the mechanical failures very well. Matt Caruana is just setting lap time after lap time at the front, and this is what it does for you when you get a bit of a gap at the front. You just get nice and comfortable. You're not under any pressure, really. You're just in your own zone, and you end up producing some of your fastest laps that you'll set all week here around this track when you're out there at the front. And it's a strange thing, if you're at the front but it's close, you're not quite able to do it. But get that gap, and all of a sudden it just exponentially increases, does that gap?
Yeah, absolutely. Just drive with confidence at that point. Although there are some drivers where you do need to light the fire under their bum sometimes, right? It's sometimes that pressure from behind causes them to go even quicker. But of course, you do have to be cautious, because that's when you start overstretching yourself, and that's when the mistakes start to settle in for a lot of drivers. But so as everything gets close in the breaking point there, Ben Smith is the one we're focused on right now, center picture, with James Armstrong all over the back of him, trying to recover positions, of course.
I think we're having a bit more excitement in front though. Matthew Crisp. Oh, Matthew Crisp is running a little bit slow there down the straight, so down the Bentley straight. So I think he was starting to get a little bit excited with Christian Zeruta. And oh, that was yeah, that was suboptimal.
Yeah, that's a choice of a move as the battle continues on there. As Ben Smith tries to work his way through, will be successful through the long right-hander in towards that left of Murray's, as Matthew Crisp is going to have a big task to try and hold on to these positions now, because didn't get the most ideal line through the final corner. So James Armstrong will be able to squeeze himself up against the pit wall, perhaps. Nope, he's going to be crowded out here. It does open up as with the pit lane exit there, and Armstrong does dive his way down towards the inside, in towards Riches. Still not fully through. Absolutely level on the brakes into the heavy braking zone here for the hairpin, and there we go. Armstrong is able to get himself through, but not a great couple of moments there for Crisp, as he was trying to not lose so many positions.
Yeah, it's after you make a mistake like that, you have to get yourself into a bit of a routine then, and get yourself back into the rhythm. We have had people elsewhere asking if there are GT4s on track. Well, there's two of them on screen. Adam Graveson and Alistair Pollock. They're about your closest race out there in GT4 in the AMS, but the leader, Aidan Carter, has just been pulling away. Again, it seems to be a case that the two leaders are pulling away.
Yeah, that's certainly all we have evidence for here at the moment. Of course, Caruana more so than Carter, but either way, the fronts of each of your two classes seem to have seems to be only a one-horse race at this moment in time. Of course, still time for things to change, and of course we have that second race to contend with as well. But right now, it seems like the race leads are looking rather secure. But the positions behind them, not so much. There's still a bit of a train for P2 and Pro between Jeffries, Martin, and Eatwell. We've got the little battle we've been watching here in GT4 as well. Adam Greaves and Alistair Pollock very close together for second. So just because there's no excuse me, just because there's no active battle for the race lead doesn't mean there isn't anything interesting happening anywhere else. And well, you can see the replay of the attempt from Chris to try and get down the inside of Hope there.
I think that was a little bit ambitious. That from Matthew, and I think there was a little bit of frustration there, because of course he'd lost those positions down the Bentley straight, tried to then try and not lose any more spots, sticks the nose in there, and we saw from lap one, sticking the nose there into Nelson just isn't going to work through there. It's very much a one line through there. If you get a move done through that corner, you have to have cooperation between both cars, and you're slowing each other down at that rate. So it's sometimes better to not make the move through Brundle. I have seen people make it, as Nick Scott Dixon. Oh, pretty close. Hard for me to say, but pretty close between him and Carl Chase.
I'm glad we both have trouble with his name, as the 25 trolls to hold on there. To the position, but with our current situation, let me just so these guys are currently sort of towards the mid-pack to slightly bottom of the mid-pack order in terms of GT4s, but still giving us an absolutely fantastic show here, as there was a little bit wide there, I think, from I believe it was Carl Chase, who didn't quite get through there okay, and now it's Denise Pope all over the back of him. So yeah, battle's still happening elsewhere on circuit, just not for our active race leads at the moment.
Oh, side by side though, down the pit straight. Thank you very much, James Armstrong says. And there he goes then on that recovery drive to 8. I will say that your leader is going to catch one piece of lap traffic. Jack Mace, who of course had to get running repairs done after lap number 1. But then after that, it's still quite a while. I don't think we're going to get the same level of lap traffic as we got at Donington Park.
Currently not looking like the case. I mean, we had more issues in terms of incidents at Donington Park, which put people sort of off the pace and several tens of seconds behind the race leader. So yeah, I think it's sort of, like you said, it's a different set of circumstances here at Snetterton. We don't have the weather affecting the race currently as well. So that all factors in. But yeah, I think Caruana would be very happy with the fact that he doesn't have to deal with that much lap traffic, considering.
Oh, he'll be delighted if he has no lap traffic to deal with. He could just keep working away at the front. Matt will probably be saying that if we do end up speaking to him after the second race, he'll probably say, well, that was one of the most boring races I've ever had. But it's what you want. At the end of the day, it is what you want. You want to be saying that you're winning and by a country mile, and that's exactly what we're seeing from Caruana. His last lap was actually his best lap, a 1:49.0. He's just crossed the line now to set one that was a 1:49.1. His average lap time, so get this, I've got a little graphic that gives me a 5-lap average lap time. 1:49.1 for Matt Caruana. Jack Jeffries in second, 1:49.8. That tells you the difference, and that's per lap.
Yeah, crazy gaps happening out there on circuit right now. Caruana just class of the field at the moment, but riding on board with Will Eatwell. The battle for the rest of the podium positions in the Pro category is definitely not certain. 3 cars involved in this one, and they could really come across the line in any order. We've got less than 11 minutes to go for these guys to all sort out their differences. So this is going to be a very intriguing one indeed. Of course, Jack Jeffries and Dave Martin, got themselves the position because the issues a little bit earlier on with that Crisp and with Crisp incident and Andrews. Yes, so they're going to be fortunate that they've been able to gain positions out of that. However, now they have to hold on to it with a pretty hard charging Will Eatwell, who's been putting in some relatively competitive lap times. It's going to be tricky for them to hold on to this.
As the great Murray Walker used to say, though, catching is one thing, passing is quite another, and that's exactly what we could see here on this one. You can defend around this track. It's a relatively narrow track if you compare it to where we're going next time out to Silverstone. You'd be thinking, you know, Silverstone, it's the wide open spaces compared to this track. So it is a tricky track to overtake. Oh, I've got it now, Connery. And that means that it's going to be difficult to see people move through. Although, as I say that, Will Eatwell going round the outside of Dave Martin at Riches, that's not a move I expected to see.
That's a heck of a move. That's what they call us off guard. I mean, I saw him committing to the driver's left-hand side, but I thought, it's not really a move we tend to see here on the outside there, but somehow Will Eatwell has been able to make that one work. So he's in the final podium position in Pro at the moment, and continuing to press on well. Hopefully, well, his next goal is to try and get onto the second step of the podium. So Jack Jeffries potentially quaking in his boots a little.
Yeah, but we saw how Jack Jeffries last week in that race 1 could really fight and could really hack it toe-to-toe with somebody who's got the pace. Aidan Carter's gone through the shot, and then we've got to wait 4 and a bit seconds for Adam Graveson and Alistair Pollock. And if these two start fighting a bit too hard, Chris Chard is not that far behind to try and take advantage of this.
Yeah, he's sort of maintaining about a 7-8 tenths of a second gap behind this battle, which is certainly enough to capitalize on issues, but not too close that you get caught up in the issues yourself. It's a nice little gap to stay behind here at the moment, just in case these two come together. But of course, as time wears on, you'll want to be getting yourself stuck in, wouldn't you? As both of them go very, very wide indeed, out into the grass partially there. So it just shows how much these guys are pushing, and how important it is to them to try and maintain their positions here on the podium in this order. But with Pollock, he really wants to get himself just a couple more points in the bank, of course. Has championships to be concerned about, wants to minimize the points. Lost to Carter as he messes up on the brakes, spins in front of traffic. Cars behind having to go every which way. A very awkward place to have a spin. But yeah, I mean, I think the pressure was telling he was applying the pressure, but then of course maybe overdrove it a little bit and ended up messing up the braking down into the corner there.
Alistair giving the sim racer's face of, oh, I've messed up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just got into the back then of Graveson. That allows Graveson to get a little bit of a gap now between him and Chard and Mike Pierce. I was about to say that we'd better not show this to Jonathan Palmer with how far off track that Pollock went onto the grass, because we know how much he likes people to stay off his grass. Oh, that's a late move from Zaruta, and almost contact between him and George Tyler.
Yeah, it's crazy, crazy close. Zaruta being incredibly aggressive over the course of this race so far. I mean, he's been able to recover back up into a 6th place, so this would be a net improvement if he was able to get through on George Tyler. But yeah, he's really, really taking no prisoners today.
Yeah, it's a bit of aggression from Christian Zaruta, and I think there may be also a little bit of frustration with how last week went as well. Had to miss out race number 1 because of entering into the server with the wrong car, which meant that he couldn't take part in race 1. But race 2, then just things didn't turn out his way, no matter how hard he tried. Zaruta's looked very aggressive here today, but it's just not quite been working out for him, unfortunately. Will Eatwell, he's not been able to shake Dave Martin here, so Dave's giving it back, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have to keep a keen eye on this little duo as they try to sort out their differences. We've got less than 6 minutes left to go here in this one, and still some battles unresolved. Of course, Will Eatwell and Dave Martin, P3 in Pro. We have a replay of Cody Cosford having an issue in towards Brundle and coming back onto the circuit at a very awkward place, but not like he could help it. Able to, well, the car behind able to avoid, and Cosford able to get back going.
Yeah, that's a case of where you're behind the wheel, you hit the brakes as hard as you can in the air, going just, please don't hit anyone, please don't hit anyone, please don't hit anyone. Thankfully, he didn't, and he held his brakes until after Johnny Elia had gone past. So Cody Gosworth not having a good day at the office so far today, although he's qualified. So it's not an improvement, but it's not got worse at least.
Yeah, now he has to be looking in his well, I mean, Andrew Richardson needs to be looking in his wing mirrors at the moment, because there's a couple of pros coming up on him, and it's battle for precision as well. Down towards the inside, both of them go. Good job on Richardson to get well out of the way there and not influence this battle. Although Dave Martin, as I was watching on his view, didn't quite, yeah, he's a bit further back now, so he didn't quite get the greatest run coming through the final corner, and as a result, I mean, a couple more tenths of a second on the way down in towards turn 1. So yeah, this is looking close, but not like the imminent battle that we were perhaps expecting just moments ago.
Yeah, and that's how just traffic can affect things slightly. Your race leader has finally caught up to a bit more of the back end of the GT4 field, and there you see Matt Caruana. And the problem is he's got 2 cars that are battling each other. It is so difficult when you come up to lap traffic that are battling each other, and Denise Pope gets sort of bullied out the way there by Caruana. Matt wants to keep his perfect race going. I can tell you, Matt Caruana's last lap, it must have been a lap with a 1x off track, a 48.9, but it's not classed as the fastest lap, so must have put a wheel onto the grass somewhere, but he's just been unbelievably fast around here so far today. But a pole position by half a second, well, he's shown why in this race.
I was going to say, at 48.9 is faster than what he said in qualifying by about 0.4 of a second. So yeah, there must have been a bit of a few liberties with the track limits there. It's not counted as a fastest lap if they get an instant point on that particular lap. So it's not going to affect the official fastest lap standings. But yeah, it's an interesting point to know, and it's still absolutely rapid. Even if you take any advantage from track limits out there, it's still a very, very competitive lap time. But you can see the battle that we see on screen is Denise Pope and Carl Chase. Of course, they were introduced to Matt Caruana somewhat a couple of moments ago before Caruana went through and ran off into the distance as the pro race leader. But as we see, as Chase again signaled towards the inside there, tries to put off the driver ahead, but Pope is able to not be scared by such tactics, shall we say. It's so easy to be spooked into a defensive move or to overshooting the entry just because someone's looked down the inside like that.
Somebody put the Porsche admin into timeout in the Twitch chat. I'm sorry, that is a terrible, terrible pun that you've made. But, yes, it's certainly, Carl's not giving this one up, not without a fight, but Denise Pope up 3 places in this one. She'll be wanting to hold on to this and try and keep ahead for the time being, but Carl, I think it's just trying to be a bit of damage limitation for the driver in the number 71 car.
Yeah, absolutely. Both of them, of course, running 1 lap down compared to the pro leader. At this point, that's what the overall standings are based on. But of course, as we continue to watch these at least get themselves within the same postcode now, some alternate lines being run through Brundle, and you just got to set yourself up for a move somewhere at the circuit. But like you said, the overtaking opportunities aren't fantastic. The ones that are there are fraught with risk, though, aren't they, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. With that infield section through Palmer, Agostini, Hamilton and Oggies, and then through Williams onto the Benton Straight, you basically want to start setting someone up into Agostini, because if you can get them offline into that corner, you can then almost force them offline into Hamilton, which then forces them offline into Oggies and compromises them through Williams, which means you can carry the speed down the Benton Straight. But you can see how you're having to set people up multiple corners in advance to take advantage of that heading into Brundle and Nelson. But we've seen how into Brundle and Nelson there's been contact through this race as Zaruta still trying his best to get past Tyler, and here comes Armstrong.
Yeah, Armstrong with the opportunistic move through on Saruta, as Saruta was preoccupied with trying to get past Tyler, forgets to cover off behind, and Armstrong is able to get through, and Armstrong's looking very strong at the moment as he looks down the inside of Tyler. Big move, but they get into a tangle, all 3 of them there, and here comes Will Hope, same with Matthew Crisp to try and capitalize on it. Hope up in towards 6th place from 8th through that entire sequence.
That was always ending in tears, that. Absolutely always going to end in tears was that. It was just way too aggressive, and yeah, it was always going to end in a bad way with that one, and unfortunately it does affect multiple drivers, but does give opportunities to like William Hope to move through. But what a drive it's been for Matt Caruana.
He's just got a straight little bit of road to go, and he can claim another race win here in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Great Britain race winner for race number 3 of the season here at Snetterton. We've got one more race coming up. Can he win that and do the double as well? We will just have to wait and see. It's a bit of a train here behind, with Will Hope, Christian Saruta, Matthew Crisp, all heading their way into Murray's for the final time, all just hoping that they can get through cleanly and not be under threat coming towards the start-finish line. It is a decent run to the line here at Snetterton, but none of them with a photo finish. All come across the line astern. Hope in 6th, Saruta 7th, Crisp in 8th, and Smith in 9th. Meanwhile, as we look towards the AM category, there is Aiden Carter, who's not had an issue all day, just like P1 in Pro, P1 in AM is looking confident, is looking competent, and has a whole bunch of points here at the end of our 3rd race of the season. Aiden Carter looking fantastic. He's just got this final little sector to go, and he will be able to claim those points.
Glenn Humberston is busy fighting with another Porsche, with another pro driver in front, but I think there's lap difference between the two of them. But yeah, what a drive for Aiden Carter. Absolutely superb. Picked up where he left off in race number 2 of the evening last week, and for round 3, it's just been utterly dominant in the AM class and thoroughly deserves this AM class win.
Across the line, Carter goes to take a race win here in race number 3 of the championship. The 43 doing very, very well indeed in that AM category. But you don't want to go away, so don't close that tab. Don't go to a different stream, because we do have race number 2 coming up here very, very shortly. But as we can see, a replay of that's what's happened with James Armstrong in that cacophony of issues on the way down into the braking zone there amongst a couple of your top 10. It was a very optimistic move, and I think Armstrong was always going to wash up in the middle of the apex there with how much speed he was carrying in. Yeah,
it was the ultimate aggressive move down the inside. It's a move that I've seen Ashley Sutton pull off a few times. He's making the corner, but he's past the apex, the early apex of the corner. I will say there's a little bit as well on Tyler that, you know, he can't just turn in when there's a car alongside him as well. So it's a bit of 6 of one, half a dozen the other, but it was a very aggressive move from Armstrong, and I could see that coming a mile off, to be honest.
You can be a little bit aggressive in the last lap of the race, but of course the stewards will be having a little bit of a look at every incident, or rather the protested incidents that happen over the course of this race, and make their decisions later. But here are your unofficial race results from race number 3. It is Matt Caruana taking the race win in Pro by 12.8 seconds. Wow. Over Jack Jeffries, 12.8 seconds in a half-an-hour race. That is awesome. Will Eatwell in P3 with Dave Martin P4. George Tyler will come home in P5. Will Hope in P6 with Saruta 7th, Crisp in 8th, Smith in 9th, and Armstrong in 10th. Further down, you got Adam Locke, Edward Hope, Johnny Elliott, and Ben Cooper rounding out the top 14. And you've got Cody Cosford, Glenn Humberston, and the only driver 1 lap down in Pro, that's Luke Andrews. And then you look at AM. Aiden Carter wins by 8 seconds over Adam Greaveson. Chris Chard, the final runner on the podium. Then you've got Mike Pierce in 4th with Alistair Pollock in P5. Roy Weller in 6th with Nick Scott Dickerson in P7. Denise Pope in P8 with Carl Chase in 9th, Wayne Basson in 10th. And then your final runners in your AM category, that's Andy Richardson and Jack Mace. So that's race number 1 of this race meeting in the books. But of course, we have a second race coming up. I'm sure that the process of setting up that server is happening as we speak, and we can get another 30 minutes of action out there at Snetterton. It was a decent race here for round number 3 at least. But of course, I think the main story is going to be those race leaders just winning by such huge margins.
Yeah, absolutely. Just romping away at the front there with little care of the world about what was happening behind them. Matt Caruana's pace all race long. I mean, even at the end there, working through traffic, was still only just doing 49. So, doing a really, really good job in Pro. Same for Aiden Carter as well. His lap times were just incredibly consistent at the front there. Took him a little bit longer to get that gap at the front. He got about a second and a half from lap 1 with the shenanigans that happened with Humberston at turn 1 at Riches at the start of that race. But after that, I was just able to slowly eke away that gap at the front. And as I said during the commentary, once you get that gap, you feel a lot more comfortable, you feel a lot more relaxed, and you're just able to hit your marks time and time again.
Yeah, you are absolutely. You don't have to worry about someone right behind you giving you an issue, breathing down your neck, applying the pressure. You can sort of just run your own lap times, run your own deltas, and you should be okay. For some drivers, that might sound a bit boring, but like you said in the race, Paul, sometimes boring is good, and it means you're doing well. But I know in a lot of other people, there's that feisty racing driver that wants to go fighting for every position.
I mean, it feels a lot more satisfying for some drivers if you've had to fight for it. You feel a lot more of a buzz from winning that. I mean, we saw the pictures of Matt Caruana at the end of the race as he crossed the line. He did look bored, to be honest. It was almost well, that race is done.
Yeah,
it was very little emotion on Matt's face there. Whereas if you've had to fight, maneuver for every last inch of the road to be able to get across the line, you really get pumped up, and you'll throw a fist pump or two there and show that emotion. But quite frankly, I think Matt would, out of the two choices, would prefer the nice, easy, get a good gap and pull away approach. But certainly we saw some feisty racing throughout the rest of the race as well, it must be said. I think that helped to a degree, especially what happened with Luke Andrews and Will Eat Well.
Yeah, it was a big shame. I mean, of course, Andrews ending up effectively dropping out of the race, not because of that, just because of a weird coincidence that his internet went just after the incident had happened. So yeah, that is super unfortunate. Hopefully he does join us for the second race. That option is of course open to him. He'll just have to start right at the back of the grid there if he was to choose to do so. But yeah, it's I was actually kind of looking forward to seeing what Luke Andrews could have done in this race, because he was looking very good at points in that pro category. It's just a bit unfortunate that that incident happened in the way it did, and he ended up being the one that was massively worse off compared to his competitors.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we'll be seeing a fighting charge through the field if Luke does come through into this race, and I think he'd be right to take part in this and to get whatever points he can out of the championship. I've seen this time and again from multiple sim races over the years about how an incident happens and before you know it, they're just, well, there's no point, I'm not going to win, and just give up. There's something said about somebody who has adversity and it's a case of, right, now let's pick it up, dust ourselves off, get whatever we can out of that result, and then be able to push on. And I think that shows the stronger mental attitude for a sim racer, much like you would in the full metal racing as well, to show that toughness, that mental toughness, to be able to just say, right, forget it, let's move on, try and salvage whatever we can out of this result and get on to the next race.
Yeah, being able to bounce back is such an important skill, especially when you have races like that where it just doesn't go your way. You have an instant and you have effectively an instant that's also not under your control with your technical issues. So yeah, if you can bounce back from that, I think you can probably bounce back from anything, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it just goes to show that some of the best drivers in the world are those that are able to compartmentalize things, not let the emotion take a hold of them. I mean, Jackie Stewart, he famously was there saying, take the emotion out of your driving when you're racing. Just have a very clinical approach to your racing and you will be so much a better driver for it as well, being able to control those emotions. There are the odd rare people who can use that emotion to their advantage, who get fired up and can really just pull out something special but they're few and far between of those types of drivers. It's very much you want to be that calm, cool, okay, move on. The amount of times I've been a spotter for teammates, something happens, they start ranting and raving through the push to talk through the Discord server, and I'm just there going, right, shut up, move on. We move on, forget about it, just move on. And you literally have to tell them that as a race engineer.
Yeah, you do. And a lot of these guys will have people, sort of either friends or teammates, sort of working in the background to give them that sort of advice and that sort of push when needed. Not all of them will, of course, but some of them will at least have someone with them, just sort of guiding them through the race, even if it's not an official spotter, but sort of like a more of a race manager, race engineer type deal, to just give them updates on gaps and to essentially sort of manage the driver, right? sort of to emotionally regulate them in a way, especially when bad things like some of the things we saw happen out there on circuit. But yeah, it's a very very interesting topic. This is why we have things like sports psychologists, you know, in the real world to be able to deal with those sorts of issues. And actually, some of the top teams in sim racing now also do chat to sports psychologists. Those are in the like the NASCAR series, in the Porsche Esports Super Cup and things like that. Yeah, they're all at least have their toes in that sort of business.
The level of professionalism that's been brought to sim racing in the last 4 or 5 years. It just stepped up a notch, especially when Porsche getting involved with the Porsche Taycan Esports Super Cup. I think there was a lot of teams who saw that as a big step up from what they had been doing previously. I'm not saying that things weren't professional beforehand. I'm just saying that the level went up a gear. It went up a level, and it shows that to be one of those best teams out there and the best drivers out there, you need to get whatever you can. Have a personal trainer working with them, somebody working their nutrition, their diet, so that they're getting the right food inside them. I mean, I joke about Charlie and Bryn Collins owing me and Sada kissed a donut. That's because they were ordering them during Le Mans Virtual. But you've got then nutritionists as well who also will be working with these people going, hey, come on, you do need to actually eat some things that have greenery and things like that to help balance that diet out.
You sound
Not
like my
I
parents.
would know about that.
I was going to say, you're starting to sound like my mom there. But yeah, she always tried to get me to eat veggies and things. But yeah, of course, you know, we're getting to the point now where we are eagerly awaiting getting in towards our final race of today, well, our last race of 2. And also, I do want to bring it back to those sort of old World Championship discussion, because we've got to be very careful, because in this exact channel that we're using to communicate right now, we have our producer, who has been a world champion in iRacing. So we do have to be careful with what we say there, Paul.
And that's why I said I wasn't saying that they weren't professional before. But yeah, it's just been incredible to see. And it's not just the 1 or 2 big teams, you know, your Team Redlines, your Coanders, your Apex Racing teams like that, Williams Esports, who have taken that up a level. But it's also teams that are feeding into a lot of that as well, have had to step up their game to be able to try and compete and to get into those top competitions. So yeah, you see it right through. If you want to be very best, you've got to beat the very best as well.
I thought you were going to break into the Pokemon theme song there for a second. But,
it was either that or Ric Flair to be the man, you got to beat the man. But you know, it's you know, but it's true though. You know, you've got to beat these very best. You've got to compete against these best to see what they're doing that you're not doing. And if you're a developing driver, being able to compete in championships like this, if you're an AM in the GT4s right now, and you're seeing what some of those pro drivers can do, like a Matt Caruana, watch what they're doing with those cars. Try and learn from them, and take that and apply that into your racing.
Absolutely. We have been able to get ourselves the session up and running, and it's, well, interesting weather for a different reason than most people would think, because look at that. It is a pretty foggy day, or at least the fog has descended upon Snetterton. So we have light fog is the official forecast. No threat of rain. Precipitation is still at 0% chance, but it's looking very, very gloomy out there.
A very typical sort of spring day for us, of course, because in the session we are, of course, working to about 6 months in the future. So it's actually late March in server here. So yeah, a little bit of a haze, a little bit of mist in the air. It's very typical for Britain.
Look, you can take a screen cap of that, and that is just the average British day. So if you don't live in the UK and you're watching this, this is kind of what it's like almost 90% of the time. It's a pretty good representation. I'm sure you agree.
Oh, very accurate. Yeah. Really realistic simulator here, and yeah, and it's very flat around this area as well. So when you do get the mist descend here, then it very much sort of sits there. No rain on the horizon though. It's just misty, light fog, 20 degrees track temperature, and well, surprise, seeing as there's a light fog, 100% relative humidity.
Absolutely, and yeah, so it's not a weather phenomenon we see too often in our racing, but it does happen. But we'll be getting ourselves in towards the starting grid for race number 2 then. It's going to be very familiar. It's just the results from race number 1, so we can go through it a little bit quicker. So it's Matt Caruana with Jack Jeffries on the front row of Pro. Then you've got Will Eatwell and Dave Martin in behind. Then you've got George Tyler and Will Hope in P5 and 6. Christian Suter lining up 7th with Crisp in 8th, then Smith in 9th with Armstrong in 10th. Adam Locke and Edward Hope round out the top 12. Elliott, Cooper, Cosford, Humberston, Andrews and Carter will be the top end of the top 18. Then you've got getting in towards your, of course, your AM category. Of course, we did have Carter start there in 18th. There's Adam Graveson, P19, Chris Chard, P20. Then you got Mike Pierce, Alistair Pollock, Roy Weller, and Nick Scott Dickerson in 24th overall. This is Denise Pope, Carl Chase, Wayne Basson, Andy Richardson, and Jack Mace rounding up the 29-car starting grid here today. We're about to go racing once again, this time in slightly foggier conditions here at Snetterton. Green flag drops. Round number 4 is now underway, and it's again an amazing start from Caruana at the front of the field. Will Eatwell, though, trying to go down the inside of Jack Jeffries in towards turn number 1. Looks like he's going to be relatively successful in doing so. In fact, he's very successful in doing so. Jeffrey trying to fight back, but to no avail as the car spun around in the pro category as the AMs get their race started as well.
Yeah, I think there's been a few AMs getting caught up and into shenanigans as well. But what a launch! Once again by Matt Caruana. Just seems to have the magic touch getting off the line with this Porsche 992 GT3 Cup car. You've still got side-by-side in your GT4s in your AMs. Aidan Carter's pulled away, but Pollock, Pierce, Chard and Chase all together here. And again, I think they got a little bit caught up. Oh, big incident.
Oh, Carl Chase involved in that one. Nick Scott as well, as they drop down the timing order. There's big issues there in the AM category as 2 drivers, well, maybe not out of this event, but severely hurt and wounded and have to try and limp back around to the pit lane. But a bit of a chaotic first couple of minutes here. You can see the trainer cars as they head their way down through towards the very back end of the lap, through Brundle and up in towards Nelson as well. Here's the replay from Ben Cooper. Again, spun in front of the Anfield as well, which is always a sketchy situation. There's Adam Greveson, who is looking oh so good, but he has a heavy impact with the Armco barrier on the inside. And again, yet more cars scattered about everywhere. There's Roy Weller getting attacked from behind and into the barrier too.
Yeah, cold tyres, cold brakes. You're struggling, and those 2 cars. I will say you do need to leave some space for the other car to be on the outside of you. You can't just ride right up to the white line when you've got a car to your right. So yeah, I know that the throttle pedal works both ways as well for the 71 car chase, but Nick Scott, you need to leave a little bit of space, if for no other reason, just to self-preservation.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see Ed Hope trying to battle it out with Glenn Humberston here. This is for P15 in class, as Hope trying to recover a couple of positions off of what was a very, very awkward start for him, but at least is able to keep himself ahead and actually get through on Glenn Humberston in this particular instance, but it's still a long road back from there. Of course, Ben Cooper was the one that had that big spin, big issue, excuse me, at the very front, or not at the very front of the field, but in the pro category, spun in front of traffic. He's currently trying to work his way through the Anfield for position at the moment, funnily enough, because he's 21st overall, and actually the highest placed AM is 17th.
Yeah, he's found himself in that AM pack and is trying to work forward, but Aidan Carter again in AM in the lead of it, doing well as Cosworth around the outside of Nelson, and that's what happens when both of you do cooperate there. Through Brundle into Nelson, and oh dear, Armstrong's not having the best days out there. He was a little bit wide through the bomb hole into Coram, and now compromised down the straight, and Matthew Crisp looks like he's wanting the position.
Crisp looking to outside, inside, in towards Riches, but Armstrong gives him neither option, as we're running on board with Armstrong at the moment. He's up 2 positions compared to where he started. Of course, had struggles in race number 1, which has put him in a bad spot for race number 2, at least to start, but is all things considered, making forward progress and is doing quite well at the moment, despite the pressure from Matthew Crisp in behind as well, who actually almost love tapped the car through Montreal.
I will say that Matt Caruana's not having everything his own way in this race, because Will Eatwell's actually just eaten into that lead just that little bit at this point, so he's trying to close that gap to the lead. As soon as that slipstream gets broken by Caruana, that's when he's able to really stretch his legs and pull out that lead. But Will Eatwell right now is just at the borderline. In fact, I think he's possibly about to lose the slipstream, so he's going to lose out to Caruana. Here comes Armstrong then down the Bentley Straight. Memory serves me correct, it used to be the Revit Straight. Did that one. Oh, and Concertina all together, and bang, bang, bang. It just all acts like a domino effect.
This could be one of those flashpoints. You know, Armstrong to the inside of Coram there, as Will Hope taking the middle line, and Will Hope getting hung out to dry, as here comes Matthew Crisp down the inside. Is he able to take the position? Is there an overlap? No, as I was thinking Hope was able to try and maintain the inside there for Brundle, but loses the advantage, and Crisp is able to cut down across him. It was a bit of a chop of the nose, but still fair.
Yeah, it was just within that sort of fairness. I've just noticed that Mike Pierce has actually dropped down the order in AM, so something's happened to Mike out there on this lap. For him, we can see that Crisp now coming under pressure from Will Hope behind, and that's the tricky thing with Coram. It's very much a one-line corner as that, and if you get put out wide, you're just opening the door for others to try and work their way through that corner. So yeah, it's get offline. It's also dirty offline through there as well. Great when it's wet, because it keeps it retains its grip through there, does the outside line. But yeah, in a race like this, no, you get hung out to dry.
Yeah, you do. So it's one of those things you try, but then you find out why no one's gone there, right? So then you start hugging that inside almost uncomfortably at that point. But let's have a look at this. Jack Mace down in the inside of Wayne Basson there. and Basson having to drop back into a little bit of a fight with Graveson, or at least a close moment with Graveson there between the two teammates. So it's a good move from Mace to try and to be able to improve on that position. I'm just having a look at front of Graveson's car. He's just the one behind our graphic at the moment. Not the best. Well, the front end of that Cayman looks like it's been punched in somewhat.
Well, yeah, that was the lap 1 stuff, wasn't it, for Adam? And that means that a little bit of damage, but you won't be affected too much by that around this track. And teammate just goes, yes, Adam, you go through, you set the pace, I'll try and follow you through the pack. But yeah, yeah, I do. Like I say, I do wonder what happened to Mike Pierce out there on the last lap to drop down so many positions suddenly. That's very unlike Mike.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look back on it, my own view, see if there's anything major, and potentially a bit of a tangle. We'll have a look at it. There we go. So there's the spear. Well, there's the car stranded in the grass, and then down the inside of Murray's. Yeah. Again, I get the feeling we're going to see that a couple more times this evening.
And that's where I said it's one of those corners where you need to have both of you giving as much space to each other to make that move work. We did see it a little bit earlier as Glenn Humberston not having a good day at the office, I think it's fair to say, as we go back to the pros up towards 13th. But yeah, it's a compromised move through Brundle into Nelson, and you got two lines that are converging there on the apex of Nelson, and inevitably there's going to be some form of contact, and we've seen that all tonight.
Yeah, that was Chard, who was also involved in that little tangle there. But yeah, you're absolutely right. As we see aggressive driving happening out there on circuit, this is involving Luke Andrews, who's in 10th place, trying to promote himself up into 9th place through on Will Hope. Will Hope will try and come back at him in towards Brundle. He's going to lunge towards the inside here. The gap is left open by Andrews, but that's gained a whole bunch of time for Ben Smith, who locks onto the back of this battle now, goes towards driver's left-hand side on the way down in towards turn number 1. We've seen moves around the outside here work. Ben Smith decides to go for the undercut instead, coming off the corner. Hope is going to have to try and go defensive now in towards Montreal. Takes a bit of a defensive line into there. He's got to be careful not to overshoot, and he has. Ben Smith down the inside once again. Still a struggle to try and complete this move, however, because it's going to be the left in through Palmer here, which is going to gain the driver on the inside a bit of time. And there's another left-hander of Agostini, where again the inside might be advantageous, but no, Will Hope just backs out of that one. Ben Smith has to try and cover off the response down the inside through this left-hand hairpin. Fantastic driving, fantastic battle between the two of them, but it is Ben Smith that comes out on top in this instance.
And that all came from going a little bit deep through into Wilson, the hairpin, and Pierce and Basson getting together through Coram, and things just going from bad to worse for Mike, trying to recover in this race instead, dropping further down in the order. I was about to say, Will Hope, when he was trying to make that move back on Luke Andrews into Murray's, I've done exactly that move, and it's the only ever time that I've heard a former teammate of mine, Dr. David Baker, get very angry over the mic. I've never heard him so angry with the contact that I made. It was all for a race win as well, obviously, so yeah, two into one doesn't work through Murray's, as up the place goes Roy Weller on Andrew Richardson.
Yeah, easy move down the insides for Roy Weller with the with a very interesting livery. It's almost like sort of a retro version of a battery, sort of branding going on there, isn't it, with the lightning bolt?
Various different battery brands are available. So as we go through Coram then, and we see that place has changed. Jack Mason, Adam Graveson staying as they are together. Graveson with that damage to the front right, as you pointed out, Connery. As I say, it won't be affecting too much around here because again, there's only really. I mean, this straight and the Bentley straight are relatively high speed, but it's when we go to Silverstone, that's going to be a completely different thing. As Adam Locke will look to now fighting with Ben Cooper. Ben, of course, who had that big moment through Riches on lap 1.
Indeed, and trying to recover ever since in this one, and well, he's locked onto the back of locked onto the back of Locke here for the moment. But yeah, it's an interesting one because obviously this battle is P15 in class, right? So it's and they're quite far off the rest of the mid pack here at the moment. Adam Locke is about 8.6 seconds away from Cody Cosford, for example. So they're in a bit of no man's land at the moment, in a fight in and amongst themselves. So the resulting victor of this has got nothing but clearer track ahead of them.
Yeah, but it's still a place, isn't it? You still want to get that place. Speaking of getting places, you've got James Armstrong, David Martin together here, George Tyler in front of them, who got that great result in race number 1 of the evening. Round number 3, round 4 though, in 5th place. Where he started is George, but Christian Zeruta, it was a heck of a launch from Christian at the start of the race. Dove it down the inside into Riches. You could never miss Christian with his luminous yellow paint on his car. Jack Jeffries, it's interesting to see, fastest lap of the race. So Matt Caruana's not the fastest one out there in the second race.
49.848 last time around for Jack Jeffries, which was the fastest lap. Last lap for Matt Caruana. Oh, as we have a bit of a swap around, I just saw on the timing screen for P2 in class. So Jeffries not only setting the fastest lap of the race, getting himself P2 away from Will Eatwell as well. It won't be completely resolved here as Eatwell will look towards the inside for trying to set up the move through Brundle and through Nelson as well. He might have this one back. Bold move down the inside. Eatwell back up into second place. But fantastic battle between those two. Jeffries really setting the timing screens alight, but the only one that's laughing right now is Caruana as he gains a gap over them.
Yeah, and that's it. All the while that these two are swapping places and giving us exciting racing, Matt Caruana's just driving away. And if I'm in Caruana's shoes right now, I'm basically looking at my on-screen relative box and seeing how those two are together and swapping places, and I'm thinking, right, let's get the hammer down a bit here. Try and pull out a bit of a gap whilst those two are busy with each other. So that then if one does prevail over the other and starts coming at me, they're coming at me from a bigger gap.
Yeah, absolutely. You've really got to maximize every single chance that's given to you. Every single situation that develops, you can try to adapt to your advantage. And Caruana is doing pretty good at it at the moment. Here's Ben Cooper breaking traction, coming out the corner and having a little bit of a play in Palmer's grass. As we see Johnny Elliott have a similar break of traction and actually gets tagged in from behind as well.
Yeah, I think there wasn't very much anywhere for the car behind to go there in the Johnny Elliott incident there, but yeah, it's quite cool temperatures out there, so they will be pushing a bit harder. The track temperature is about 5 degrees cooler than it was in the first race this evening, so it will be a little bit cooler for them. And that I know we said this last week, but yes, Porsche did make successful rallycross cars, but this isn't rallycross here today. Keep it on the grey stuff. But yeah, with the cooler track conditions, the drivers will be able to push the tyres that bit harder, because here with these cars, if you overheat the tyres, it takes a few laps for you to get that tyre temperature back under control. Yeah, but you will be seeing these drivers just pushing on and also just pushing those tyres to a bit more of the limit.
You can lean them on them a bit more here as Graveston with the aggressive move attempted around the outside of Jack Mace, but again unsuccessful in that particular endeavor. It does seem like Graveston maintains a decent amount of pace at the moment, but is unable to find an opportunity right now to try and get past that number 32 Cayman. But as he slipstreams down the Bentley straight here, into that left-hander of Brundle, right-hander of Nelson, and you know, that gap continues to come down between the two of them. It's just that Graveston needs to capitalize when he's given the opportunity. Further up the field though, Pro Category, just outside the top 5, Dave Martin versus James Armstrong. Armstrong maintaining the inside lines from through here, becomes the outside in towards Oggies. It's going to set up for the run through these next couple of right-handers here, although Dave Martin does back out of it, actually, just completely backs out of it. Didn't want to continue on that fight for some reason.
It's all because if you're the car on the outside, you can get a really good run through Williams to carry the speed then all the way down the Bentley straight. So you hold that inside line going side by side, you're slower onto that straight, and then you're a bit more of a sitting duck, and you're looking in your rear view mirror at the next car of Matthew Crisp getting closer and closer to you. So a little bit smart there to actually say, you know what, it's better to just back off, get into his slipstream of Armstrong and try and push on for the rest of the race. These two at the front, Eatwell and Jeffries, they're still going at it, they're still pushing each other, and as we mentioned earlier, it's just allowing Caruana half a second. Last lap Caruana was quicker than these two.
Caruana with a 1:49.610, not counted as the best lap due to off track. But yeah, it's very scary pace right now from Caruana, and you got to consider that that was also, well, at least on this lap, is now involving a bit of lap traffic, as Carl Chase is going to drop back into this battle for P2 between Eatwell and Jeffries in just a couple of moments. You can just see him further down the road there. There we go, front of the shot. For brief moments was one of our GT4 runners, excuse me.
Yeah, that's Carl Chase that they're catching up to now. And Jeffries, we saw last week, as I mentioned, last week we saw that tremendous fight between Caruana and Jeffries in those mixed conditions in round 1 of the championship here. Jeffries will be wanting to get back up into second place and to get some really good points, but Caruana, so far, if he is able to hold on to it for the rest of the race, and this almost feels like a massive case of the commentator's curse is coming along. If Caruana can stay ahead, I mean, is there anything better than a Grand Chelem of pole position, fastest lap, leading every lap and winning the race? Is there anything greater than that when doing that across 2 races?
I have no idea. We need to come up with a name for it, don't we? We really do. Someone come up with a name for that. But yeah, it's a crazy performance so far with the opening part of this season, excuse me, for Matt Caruana. He's really been at times untouchable. I mean, at the start of some of these races, it does get a little close, but you could see even with the launches off the line today, he's just absolutely left everyone in his dust. No one even really got a chance.
Yeah, he pulled out half a second by the time they reached Richards. Yeah, that's how good his start was. Okay, you've got a staggered start, so there's always going to be a bit of a gap between you anyway, as we've got Dave Martin, Matthew Crisp going side by side as we go through the left-hander there, and then going along, still side by side as they're going into Agostini, almost leaning on each other there. Martin should have the inside, and we almost saw a repeat of what happened in race number 1 with Dave Martin there, but they managed to stay on track.
Almost a little bit of deja vu then for these drivers, but again, ends in a different set of circumstances this time. It's allowed Luke Andrews to gain a massive amount of time on these guys. We're riding on board with the number 59 at this moment as they follow each other through the exit of Williams and onto the Bentley straight then. as we're seeing other GT4s get themselves well out of the way. That's number 71 of Carl Chase, who's been quite nice in terms of letting drivers through at the moment. Look at that further down the roads, though. That's George Tyler and James Armstrong having a bit of a disagreement, and Armstrong's through.
Yeah, that was a change position. And through Bentley and Nelson, so, you know, that's a really good move to make that stick. We've seen so many come awry with that sort of instant through there, but great stuff from those two to be able to make that move and make it stick. So Armstrong now, with him being the head of this group now, he's the one creating the slipstream for everyone else. Will he run away, or will he be under some intense pressure? And there you go, late onto the brakes, taking the wide line through Nelson, through Brundle into Nelson, and that's almost how you have to do that move around there.
Absolutely textbook. You should, I mean, drivers should go back and look at that and saying, okay, that's a perfect example of how to get past that. It's really well done there from Armstrong to be able to get up into the top 5 now. And he's about 3.6 seconds behind Saruta, so quite a gap to catch up, especially considering we only have 7 minutes left in this race. But just, you know, this trainer car is still maintained, though.
I can't tell you, though, just how difficult that is to make that move, though, because one, you're braking later than the other car around the outside on the dirty line, and that corner of Nelson comes on you and you're very, very quick, and you're having to then absolutely anchor on as hard as you can because you're taking that tight line into Nelson. You've got to get it slowed down. It's so easy to lose control, so easy to lock a wheel going in for the front, or to lock a wheel on the down change of the gearbox to make that move. So I can't, you know, reiterate just enough just how good that move was from Armstrong.
Yeah, fantastic display of driving here in the pro category, that's for sure. The fighting, I get the feeling, is not over, though. There's still this tight little packing of cars in amongst 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. I mean, you can also technically count Ben Smith in 10th in this as well, although he is a bit of about a second back off of the main grouping here. So story's still yet to be told here in this one, as we're coming just below 6 minutes left to go. Less of a gap this time for Caruana to work with, and well, actually getting towards more of a gap for Carter to work with in the AM category. He's had an absolutely fantastic day as well. So as much as we sing Caruana's praises, I think we should give one to Carter as well. Oh, careful there, Armstrong, as George Tyler is able to get back through.
And that's what happens when you miss your braking point into Wilson. Oh my goodness, they're going completely off track there. Mr. Palmer will be sending you as Bill for the new turf, but yes, Tyler takes advantage of that, and James Armstrong all comes from one mistake going into Wilson.
Yeah, just missing the braking point, having to push all the way wide, and that's just how much time you lose here. Is an opportunistic move from Matthew Crisp down the inside of Dave Martin as they will try to fight through these right-handers. Crisp is not going to give this one up, maintains that inside, but it's going to be a compromise run all the way down the Bentley straight here. And what can Luke Andrews do about this? Luke Andrews to the inside, attempting to make it 3 wide. It becomes 2 wide on the way down in towards the turn-in for Brundle here, and Luke Andrews is through. There's a bit of a calamity ahead. Cars off the circuit. I think there's a couple of GT4s that had an issue there. Richardson and Basson that had an incident with these pro drivers trying to come up on them.
Oh, and it's where do you go? I mean, you know, Nick Scott is currently in the worst possible situation. Because where do you go? Contact with Armstrong. Oh my goodness, around he goes. Oh, and he'll be frustrated with himself with that one. He got a little bit impatient with that one behind the GT4. And look at this, the aggressiveness now from Andrews.
Andrews trying to pick up positions every single corner. He slides up along the nose, goes off track. George Tyler trying to fight him off. Here comes Dave Martin, the next competitor, down the inside of Tyler here. He tries to hold on to positions. A bit of a door shove coming through the middle of the corner. Dave Martin threw it up to Sig. Tyler's still not in the clear here because Andrews is trying to come back at him. Ben Smith looking to try and get stuck in at this stage as well. Poor run from Andrews coming out the corner there in the background as Ben Smith tries to capitalize, but he can't do it either. This is craziness in and amongst this entire group.
This is almost like a Sunday evening down at Arena Essex a few years ago with the amount of contact that's been going on. Wow! Where did that RKO out of nowhere? Andrew Richardson? What on earth happened there?
I'm hoping for his sake, hardware failure.
The hardware failure on getting the line right. He's got a line.
Oh, line wrong. Oh, that's catastrophically wrong, though. Oh, jeez. Yeah. That's one you probably don't want to replay too many times, although Hugo is going to let him stew in it.
Well, let's have a look then. So he's braking way too late. Way too late. Gets onto the grass, and at that point, you're a passenger.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. It's not one that you want to see, but yeah, that one's going to be hard to take. That's for sure. Here's a little bit of a replay of what happens with that large amount, excuse me, of craziness that we saw a little bit earlier on with the lap traffic just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. You can see Armstrong, he tried to get himself to the inside, but it was just. You kind of have to take the L there, unfortunately.
He's going for a gap that doesn't exist. It's not a gap that's big enough for his car. And Nick Scott Dickerson has done nothing wrong there at all. He's the innocent party in there. He's held his line, which if you ever do endurance racing or multi-class racing, one of the big things that drivers of the quote-unquote faster class want to see is drivers be
Caruana losing time.
Caruana is losing time, by the way. Something's happened out there.
Yeah, not sure what.
What traffic, perhaps?
Looks like he's back up to speed, so it's not critical. Maybe, perhaps, but that's a lot of lost time in just a couple of moments there. I'd say probably 2-3 seconds. Let's see what happens to Caruana. No one around him at the moment. Let's see if his lap traffic effect. Heavy over the curb, yes. Teasing the grass on the outside there, and just messes up.
Got his braking wrong. Locked up an inside wheel, and then off he goes. As still Tyler. I mean, George Tyler has been one of the most tenacious drivers out there tonight. He's had to deal with all sorts of pressure through race one and now this race as well. And Luke Andrews on a charge. I said we were going to see a charge from Luke Andrews. Well, he's certainly doing it. Plus 9 places for the number 59 driver.
17th to 8th, and it could be 7th, it could be 6th, 5th, or 4th, for all I know, in this situation. A bit of lap traffic ahead. On their way coming through, well, I mean, they already dealt with the lap traffic, excuse me, as they're heading their way through the rights here at the moment and continuing to try to, look at it, continuing to, again, add more positions to his tally, I suppose, here, as Tyler, although he's been involved in a lot of things here, he has been quite strong on the defense.
Tell you what, Porsche makes some really sturdy cars, because Andrew after T-boning somebody is able to carry on with his Cayman. As a little bit of rubbing paint there going on into Agostini and heading towards Hamilton. It's the last lap as well, so if you're going to make a move, you've got to make it stick.
Absolutely, and you can see Andrews is really just diving into these corners. Sometimes you can just see from the quote-unquote body language of the cars about how they're being driven and what the driver is thinking behind the wheel at the moment. We're riding on board with Luke Andrews, as you can see the games being played coming down the Bentley straight there between the two of them. But I think Andrews is maybe a little bit too far back in towards Brundle, in towards Nelson. He'll catch up on the coming through the middle of the corners here. An opportunity coming out of Coram potentially might be the next one he'll have to take. There's Matt Caruana coming across the line to do the double once again. Here at Snetterton, race winner in the pro category, but it's undecided behind still, as there's a last-ditch move from Andrews, a big look to the inside of George Tyler. It's not going to turn out in his favour, and he's actually risking losing the position to Ben Smith. It's going to get sprint to the line, but I don't think Smith has enough in terms of the legs there to be able to get it done. But pressure, and a lot of fighting at the very end there, in and amongst that pro grouping. It was absolutely fantastic to watch indeed. Further back though, of course, we do have to give mention to our AM AM leader currently and eventual AM winner if the trend continues here, because Aiden Carter has had another fantastic race. Yeah, we've barely mentioned Aiden all the way through the race. If you're the race leader, that's the way that you want it. You don't want to be mentioned at all. It means that you're way out in front. You're not having anybody involved in you. But it's been a really fantastic performance from Aiden Carter. 2 weeks in a row now has put in a masterful display, and certainly looking one of the favourites, if not the favourite, for the AM title, even after just 2 weeks of the series. 2 weeks and 4 races. Aiden Carter comes across the line once again to take a race win. This time, round number 4 at Silverstone, at Snetterton is his, as he does a little bit of a happy celebration coming across the line and gets on with his in lap. But yeah, fantastic stuff indeed. Quite a few more battles for our second race of the evening. Here are the unofficial race results after 17 laps of racing. It is Matt Caruana taking the race win by 3 seconds this time, a bit of a tighter gap this time of asking. Will Eatwell in second place, with Jack Jeffries up into third. Christian Saruta in fourth, with Matthew Crisp in fifth. Dave Martin sixth, with George Tyler seventh. And then Luke Andrews with a decent recovery drive up into eighth place. Then you've got Ben Smith in ninth and Edward Hope in 10th. Then you've got Will Hope in 11th, with Cody Cosford in P12. Ben Cooper P13. James Armstrong P14. Adam Locke P15. Johnny Elliott in P16, with Glenn Humberston in 17th. Then in the AM category, it's Aiden Carter by 11.4 over Alistair Pollock, with Chris Chard in P3. Denise Pope with a great finish, actually, up into P4 for Denise. Then you've got Jack Mace in P5 with a good finish there as well. Then you've got Adam Greason P6 with Meg Pierce in P7, Roy Wellen P8 with Wayne Basson 9th, and Nick Scott Dickerson in P10. Carl Chase P11 with Andy Richardson in 12th. So those are our unofficial race results from race number 2. Of course, pending stewards review. Of course, drivers will have the opportunity to protest any instance that they feel that they've come off on the worst end of, and potentially might refer things to the stewards, who will then make their decisions about if any penalty does take effect. But before we do so, of course, we're having to wait for to get our drivers in for an interview here, Paul. But yeah, that second race definitely more interesting than the first, especially with the pressure and the intrigue towards the end in that pro category.
I mean, that's not to say that the first race wasn't interesting. It was certainly an exciting one indeed. But yeah, we've seen some great performances out there today. But both Matt Caruana and Aiden Carter, 2 outstanding performances up at the front. I do believe, first of all, that we will get to speak to our pro winner here, and hopefully we can get him in here and have a chat with Matt Caruana, who's right now joined us on the broadcast. We're interrupting his conversations with the other drivers. But Matt, I mean, it's a perfect week for you, isn't it, that one?
Yeah, no, that was pretty much perfect. I mean, in the second race, I was making a couple of mistakes, but I think it's just lack of concentration towards the end. But yeah, no, I'm happy with it.
I said in the middle of race 1, when you had that big lead, it must be the most boring race that you've ever been in, but you need that sometimes, don't you, to have that comfortable margin?
Yeah, I mean, I had a good start. I don't know how. I must have got the bite point well, but yeah, I got a gap at the start, and I was just trying to put some good laps in, trying to stay consistent, obviously maximise the result, and I feel like I did that in the first one.
You certainly did. Bit more pressure in the second race, as you mentioned, and unfortunately for you, we did catch one of those little mistakes that we had out there. Just tell us though, how tricky is it to race these cars with a fixed setup? It's not necessarily how you would want to ideally have the car, is it?
I mean, yeah, the Porsche Cup setups are quite simple. As like, there's not much you can do to them. But yeah, the fixed setup, it just gets faster and faster as the race goes on. So you can just put better laps in towards the end. But yeah, the setup that we've been given is, I'm happy with it, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't you be? Next week, Silverstone. I mean, you should be looking forward to that one, shouldn't you? Reaching the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, Silverstone's always good. Should be a good race with Jack and everyone around me. So yeah, it should be fun.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on the pretty much perfect week for you there, Matt.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So that's Matt Caruana. Hopefully, we get to speak to our AM winner next of Aidan Carter. Hopefully, I'm not interrupting him having a conversation here. Aidan, welcome along to the broadcast, and that's another couple of race wins there in quite a dominant display there.
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah, quite surprised with that one, if completely honest. Wasn't fully confident coming into tonight, but yeah, that went a lot better than expected, so I'm really happy with that one.
I mean, there was a little bit of incidents in the starts of both races with pro cars getting involved in GT4. Did that help you just give a little bit of a gap to start with that you were able to push on with?
Definitely in the first race, yeah. I got quite lucky with how that one played out at turn one. I was able to get a near 2-second gap pretty much immediately, so that definitely helped in the first race. And then the second race, yeah, I got quite lucky. I was the one that got held up at turn one that time round, avoiding a spin. But unfortunately for Adam, he had contact on the exit of the corner after he'd passed me. So I think without that contact for Adam, he would have been ahead and it would have been a good fight. But yeah, he was unfortunately off the road because of that. So I got quite lucky in the second race, and yeah, it really helped me in the first one.
And looking at this first portion of the season for you, I mean, it's pretty much gone ideally, hasn't it? Pretty much perfect for you. How do you now approach the rest of the season? Is it keep this momentum up, or is it just keep on focusing one race at a time and get the best result you can?
Yeah, I think it's gone way better than I thought it would. Yeah, it's been a pleasant surprise to start the season off like this. I think, yeah, going forwards, it's just a case of trying to build on the confidence that I have now in this car and trying to get the best results I possibly can. I would love to repeat the feat again next time out to get another double win, but obviously it's going to get more difficult as the season goes on, as everybody builds up a bit more confidence. So yeah, I think now that I've had 2 good rounds to start off the season, I don't have to take as many risks now to fight the front, so I can be a bit safer going forwards.
Well, congratulations. 2 wins and a pole position. Well done, Aidan Carter.
Thank you very much, and thanks again, guys, for covering the race again.
No worries there, as my lift appears to have just gone past my house here. Next up, we are going to speak to second place in Pro, and that's Will Eatwell. And Will, I think it's safe to say a mixed week for you here. First race, second race, couple of decent results for you. Third and second, you must be happy with how that's gone.
Yeah, much happier than last week at Donington. That was a bit of a disaster for me. Yeah, I was happy to qualify second. I thought I'd blown it. I had a really bad lost sector on my quali lap, but luckily that was still good enough for the front row. Yeah, unfortunately I had a bit of a bad start, but we recovered.
Yeah, certainly you did a good job out there, but we saw you having that fight with Jack Jeffries in this second race. I mean, just how tough is it around here to be able to defend, but also then attack in defense and be able to get back past somebody who's just made the move on you?
Yeah, it's quite difficult to get by people on this track. I knew once the moment I had a good run on him after making that mistake, that I had to just take that chance straight away because I didn't know whether I'd get another one. Luckily, I had a good run. I was able to make a move down the inside.
And then looking forward to next week, we're getting to the halfway point of the championship. This is sort of kick-started your charge to try and do well in the pro standings. How are you feeling going into Silverstone next time?
Yeah, I quite like Silverstone as a track. It's one of my favourites. they definitely needed a strong points haul this week to catapult back up the standings a little bit. I think I can maybe still scrape into the top 3 by season's end, but we're going to have to do a lot of work to get up there.
Well, certainly today will have helped that matters. Congratulations on the podiums, Will.
Thank you.
That's Willie Well, who's joined us, and we'll quickly speak to second place in AM now, Alistair Pollock. And Alistair, after what happened in race 1, and unfortunately we seem to cut to your camera right when you had the incident. I mean, talk us through that. You had the look of panic on your face when we saw you.
Yeah, it was panic, all right. Race 1 was pretty fun, to be fair. It was fairly consistent. I felt quite happy with the car up until maybe the last 10 minutes or so, and I was just chasing the kind of brake bias, trying to find the sweet point. I'd been racing against Adam throughout the last 10 minutes or so quite closely, and we were both very consistent in our braking points, and then we came into that one corner and he was a little early and my brake bias was a little bit off, and I just saw it all happen in slow motion.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that happens. But then you look at race 2, you've gained 5 places, you've had to fight back and get yourself a second place. You seem to be the king of second place in race 2 of the evening so far this season. I mean, doing it the hard way, aren't you?
Definitely going for the hard way. It seems to be my little specialty, is just waiting for race 2 before I open it up. But race 2 actually felt worse than race 1. I was a lot more comfortable in the first race. The second race, I just couldn't find the pace. I got very lucky with the Porsche Cup cars having some incidents at the start of race 2, and I managed to take a gamble that pushed me forward a little bit, but otherwise race 2 didn't feel amazing. There was no way I could have caught up anywhere near Aiden.
So Silverstone next time out, those GT4s gives them a chance to stretch their legs, doesn't it?
Yeah, Silverstone's going to be interesting. It's a track that everyone knows, so there's not going to be many drivers coming into it on limited practice. It's going to really kind of show who really has the kind of raw talent.
Well, Alistair, congratulations and well done on the podium in race 2.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
There we go then. Always good to hear from our drivers, Connery, here today, the drivers who have done well, and some interesting thoughts from them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Always great to get the insight from behind the wheel, because we're in the fortunate situation. We're in front of our desks. I'm actually standing. I like standing when I commentate, but we're in the privileged position to see everything with a bird's eye view. However, we don't always get the actual sort of viewpoint on the ground, shall we say, from some of the drivers. So it's good to talk to them after these sorts of races, because there might be something going on in their head that we just completely miss.
And there is one more driver that we do need to speak to as well, because he is there. Completely missed him, so I will apologise to Jack Jeffries there. Jack, I mean, race 1, race 2, couple of podiums here. Is that a good result for you? Are you happy with that?
Oh, first of all, good afternoon to you both. I'm not sure if you remember what my qualifying position was, P8. I spun out on the second lap, so I take this round with damage limitation, and I'm happy to be at where I am. A few guys really surprised me with their pace today, and I mean, Matt just killed it. He's on another level.
Yeah, certainly he was. It was just that step above. But you've had to fight for it today, and we were getting really royally entertained with you and Will Eatwell in race number 2. That looked to be a lot of fun for you guys.
Yeah, it wasn't anywhere close to what happened last week. Nowhere near as entertaining, but Will's quick and definitely surprised me. We got close at one point, but yeah, his pace was just so consistent. I just couldn't do anything about it. And coming into this race, it's not really a track that I sort of gel well with, so I wasn't really expecting good results, but especially with that P8, I just put my head down and pushed forwards.
Yeah, and that's all you can do. But that's now 4 podium positions for you this season. It's got you in good standing for second place in the championship so far. Second half of the season that we're coming up to, it's going to be tough against Matt, isn't it?
It is. You know, he's got a lot on his plate as well, so fair play to him with what he's doing. I can only have so much respect, and he's a great driver. But yeah, I just think I'm just going to try and focus on what I can do for the next round and just see where I'm missing out.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jack, and congratulations on another 2 podiums here tonight.
Thank you very much. Hopefully I'll see you back with your flat cap next week. Cool.
No worries.
See you later.
Yeah, so there we go. Get to hear from Jack Jeffries as well, but he does make a very good point. Just how he had to. Again, it talks to the point I made after race number 1, how you can have something to go against you, and it's how you respond to that and be able to push on and get a good result. And to get a 2nd place in race 1, 3rd place in race 2, after what you consider a disastrous qualifying, shows that you can get a result here.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't count yourself out. I think part of the fight is keeping that sort of optimism, right? Because if you don't think you're going to do something, you're probably not going to put in the maximum effort to do it, right? Because you don't have that self-belief. I think it's sort of life lessons with Connery here at the moment. But yeah, it is absolutely right, though. So you got to say, okay, this is the set of circumstances I've been dealt with. How do we proceed from here? What's the next goal? Should go chasing for that goal. And not just throw everything in the bin because one thing went wrong. But yeah, fantastic events here at Snetterton. Lots of good battles up and down the field. But of course, we are here next week as well on both the RaceSpotTV channel, Motorsports UK, on the Porsche Twitch as well. October 1st at 7 p.m. We're going to be heading to the home of British motorsports, Paul. We're going to be heading to Silverstone.
Yeah, certainly. And as we've heard, track that a lot of drivers know a lot about here in this one. As you say, home of British motorsport and the wide open spaces of Silverstone, so we should see some great action out there.
Absolutely, and of course the top 3 in each class at the end of the season will actually head to Silverstone in the real world to the Porsche Experience Centre to get a half-day experience in the machines very similar to the ones they drive in Sim. But for today, we are going to have to say goodnight. I've been Connery Maddock, that's been Paul Smith, and we'll see you same time, same place next week.
Try and look for the inside, but it was closed off. There was absolutely no way through there.
He's a determined driver. He'll be trying everything he possibly can.
This is where the excitement's at. This has been really intense.
And this is a really spicy battle.
It's still absolutely neck and neck. What I saw swapping paint between the two of them.